Well, this took a completely different turn. I was totally frustrated with where that was going, so I changed it drastically. And now it's taking a more minimalist approach. I've been doing art my entire life, and it recently came to my attention that that's a little bit odd. And by my entire life, I mean pretty much every day, as far as I could do it. I've painted or done drawings. I've done thousands of paintings and drawings. And I don't know why I started doing this. I did grow up in Pittsburgh, and we were near the Carnegie Museum of Art, and so I was exposed to art, but over the years I just kept doing it. And when I was in my early 20s, well, I lived in London, and so I got to see all the really great museums there, the Tate and the British Museum and all that. And I went often, and I was a photographer in the Navy. I joined the Navy so that I wouldn't get drafted, and I was sent to the embassy in London, and they eventually threw me out. They said I had an immature personality, but it could have been that I was hanging out in the gay bars. Although when they were, I had to face a jury of my superiors, and they were very mean to me. And they kept showing me pictures that I had taken as evidence of something. And what I had done is I had been going around London and finding places where all the drunks hung out on the streets. And I was photographing like the street people. And it was really fun. They loved it, and I was having a good time. But anyway, when they threw me out of the Navy and I had to stand in front of all these guys who were yelling at me, they kept showing me these pictures and like, did you do these? I'm like, yeah, I did those. Anyway, all throughout my life, I've just continued. I've always had drawings and paintings going in the background. I've done illustrations for various companies. I've painted sets. I've had my own art shows, many of those. I've shown in galleries. I have art in people's collections all over the place. Yeah, so I'm still doing it. Anyway, some people have suggested that I may be a little bit autistic. So I looked it up, and without going into too much about it, because these days, if you're abnormal in any way, you're going to have somebody showing up at your door and sending you to a concentration camp in Indiana. But yeah, I did look into it. And the thing I found about autism is that, yes, indeed, it's very real. And I suppose it's very possible that I am autistic. But the thing that bugs me about the research is so many people have taken on autism as sort of like a fashion statement. And you watch videos and people are being like intentionally quirky or goofy as proof that they're autistic. Right? They write sad poetry and make paintings, and so that proves they're autistic. So yeah, it's just it's weird. It's like I'm not sure what the point of that is, but it certainly exists. However, when I looked into it, I was really fascinated by it, and certainly being someone who has painted pretty much every day for the past 50 some years, and that is, that would be considered unusual, I guess, in some way, not neurotypical. And then I have always had this pattern recognition. It was something that when I took an IQ test in high school, in one particular area, in mechanical thinking, I scored extremely high, and they thought I cheated on the test. Oh, I like this much better. This is very nice. Anyway, they thought I cheated on the test. And all through my life, I've been able to see patterns. It's like when I watch like PBS Space Time or Veritasium, when they're showing me the equations, I don't get that at all. But when they show me the graphic representations of the ideas they're presenting, I get it instantly. Sometimes I get it even before they're done explaining it. And I just always thought everybody did that. And over the years, I realized that it's not something everybody does. And a lot of times when I've been with people in my life, they find it very frustrating because then in order to explain something that I can see, I have to take the whole idea apart and put it back piece by piece so that I can explain it to a person. And I can do that, but it's just like, well, can't you see it? It's right there in front of you. And this has been really difficult in relationships, in jobs, in pretty much every aspect of social life. And over time, I began to realize that I am always going to have a difficult time because of this. Socializing. Dating is just impossible because, I mean, I've had a very eccentric life. I've lived all over the place and I've had so many different chapters in my life. So like, you know, I meet somebody and I go on a date and they explain, oh yes, I've spent the past 30 some years, you know, at this career. And then it's my turn. It's like, well, it's a lot. And the more I explain it to people, the more they see that it's just very weird. It's very unusual. And people don't like weird. They like normal. Even gay people like normal. My last partner, which was a long time ago now, I felt very connected to him because he was very bright. But he was also just like really distant. I liked everything about our home, and I liked, you know, our pets and all of that. But he was extremely distant, and I often felt very lonely in a relationship, which is really a difficult thing. I mean, when you're with somebody and you have a life with them for, you know, 15 years, and yet they spend all of their time in emotional isolation and don't want to do anything to socialize, and you know, you love the person, but at the same time there's not a lot going on there as far as what they're willing to give. And so yeah, ever since that time, I'm like that guy in the movies where, you know, he goes out on a date with a new person after a long-term relationship, and the person sitting across from him realizes that he's still emotionally attached to his last relationship. And that's partially true. I mean, I certainly don't pine over it like I did. But for me, it's more like, I don't ever want to get hurt like that again. That was so painful. I just suffered for years, and I was so angry, and I had to face a lot of my own demons, and I just realized that it was just better for me to be by myself. And, you know, when I dated guys, they were so normal. I mean, they were just so, it's so difficult when you have this thing of pattern recognition, and you have this thing where dedicate your whole life pretty much every day to art and music as well. And, and you meet somebody and they just don't have anything really to bring to the table besides, sex. And that's great. I'd certainly go for one of those right now, but that's neither here nor there. And that's the other thing is like, after a while, I just realized that people think I'm weird. People think I'm odd, and I think they're odd. And I just started this thing of like, I'd really love to meet somebody who was excited to tell me about their favorite reptiles. Like, do you have a favorite snake? Things like that. Tell me about, an art exhibit that you've just been to. Tell me about, what do you think about artificial intelligence besides, I'm not going to use that. Do you get the idea? It would just be nice to meet people who had some, hobbies. Like, do you have a collection of something that you just can't wait to share? Whether it's like science or crafts or anything, So yeah, I don't know about autism. I took the tests, and there were 4 of them, and I took all 4. And it's a very vague thing anyway, and and you see people with autism like Love on the Spectrum, and their particular type of autism, and then there's type of autism where people have the ability to remember, what day was it on March 3rd, 1962, and they can pop it up right away. And there's different things, but the way I see myself fitting in is that obviously I have this obsession with art, and I always have art books around. I go to art museums every chance I get. I've been to some of the great art museums in the world. Been to all the ones in New York City and Los Angeles, Seattle. I was just at one in Manchester, New Hampshire. It was really just some of these little museums that are in small towns are wonderful. They have small collections, but they're good collections. I was at one in somewhere in Iowa. So yeah, I've been to, like if I go into a town and I've never been there before, the very first place I want to go is to their art museums and their galleries. Although galleries these days, it's all just so much tourist schlock. And now, people use computers to create at least the drawing of the piece. They set it up on a computer, and the more I look at art in galleries these days, the more I'm convinced that somehow they're printing the colored image onto the canvas and then maybe touching it up with some paint in order to technically call it a painting. I'm absolutely certain they're using computers, and I'm sure now with artificial intelligence they're using that to create images, and and you can have it printed on a canvas, and then maybe you just add a little see, it's a painting. So it's very difficult to find a good gallery anymore, especially one that's like challenging any norms or taking art to new places. And I don't mean like, performance art where somebody is rolling around screaming in a plastic bag, although that can be fun too. But no, I mean like, like showing off somebody's sense of color. That is really fun to me. Every once in a while, I will go into a gallery or museum and somebody has really studied their color theory. And it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to talk to that person. But often it's just touristy junk or, kind of empty. It's not even like over your couch art. It's art that is just meant to not be there. It's like, I'm not even sure what the purpose of it is. It's probably just to buy shit in this society. So yeah, autism, I don't know. I think the term is abused by people who, it's kind of like with transgender. I did a lot of research on that so that I could understand it, and I read a book called The Riddle of Gender, and that helped me a lot. And there are many different reasons why people consider themselves transgender. But, when you watch stuff on social media, a lot of times it's like people are dyeing their hair purple to piss off their parents or somebody, and they're saying, well, I'm non-binary because my hair is dyed purple, and then there's always and how I suffer for this. They're basically Rosa Parks. So I don't know what that's all about. I think it has to do with social media, and and you need something to set yourself apart from everybody else. So you're autistic or you're non-binary, and it kind of it trivializes people who are actually transgender and actually autistic. So that's my 2 cents worth. So yeah, not sure about that. I think I'm going to bring that down a little bit. Too much. I was noticing that a lot of my paintings are very calm. It's kind of like your handwriting. Your handwriting is your handwriting. And when you paint or create art, there's like no way around that. I mean, I can force my way around it. I have a painting up there that's very abstract and very chaotic, but I've noticed that there's like a calmness to all of my art, and I think that's because I've always been fascinated by the technical aspect of it, like the mechanics of it. How did they make those colors? How did that pattern come together in that way that drew me in so intensely? And how did that trick my eye? And all these things. Or like, what is this painting teaching me historically, politically? There's all these things that fascinate me about art, about painting and art and drawing. And yeah, so I think that's going to be, I'm really liking how this is going. Oh, I had it up here so you couldn't even see it. Anyway, this is kind of cool.